Allison is bringing all of you copies of it in here too.
Copies of what?
Huh?
Copies of what?
Malone.
Should we drive down and do it?
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted to see it in hard copy.
It still says.
And Tony, or not Tony.
We are
Matt-
going live now.
Matt's speed reading.
Okay.
All right.
We're going live. It's like TV.
All right. We have 9 o'clock and it's live.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'd stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of
of
America,
America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we'll have roll call.
Commissioner Ansorgi,
Here.
Commissioner Rushton,
Present.
Chairman Bonnet,
Here.
Commissioner Wessel,
Here.
Commissioner Sudis Little,
Here.
Commissioner Rettenbach,
Here.
Commissioner Lautner. All present.
All here, thank you. I'd like to announce that the number for public comment is 231-256-8103. That's 231-256-8103. So that, if you want to have public comment, when we come to that area, you'd have to call into that number and get in the queue. Okay, so then the next would be communications, proclamations, presentations, and administrator's update.
All right, and I'll defer to Matt Ansorgi here at this time.
All right, to give just a little update on our COVID status in Leelanau County, we've been holding steady at 9 cases for almost 2 weeks now. Just from a 911 response perspective, 2 weeks ago, we had 7 cases where there were possible COVID symptoms that we responded to, and last week we had 0. I don't suspect that we will continue with 0 cases for the future, but that was a good sign to see that we didn't have any positive symptoms present for our response. As you know, the COVID dedicated EMS was suspended, and we didn't have any calls last week, so that was pretty fortuitous. But other than that, our PPE for the county is still holding strong. We did get some an additional shipment of masks in from the state yesterday, and we were lucky to receive a few N95s and mixed in with the KN95. So our EMS providers will benefit from that. And other than that, we are still confident in our response. Are there any questions?
I just had one about, I noticed that I saw, I think it was yesterday, they're doing like a happy birthday run with the fire engines, and then I'd heard they'd done one the week before. I mean, I'm just wondering, is that standard procedure now that the fire engines are going out for happy birthdays?
I wouldn't say it's standard procedure. If the call volume allows, I'm sure that the first responders would rather be out interacting with the community in some way, shape, or form. So it is a good public service that they can do, but obviously if they do have call volume, they will not be able to do those kind of nice things.
All right. Any other questions for Matt? Seeing none, then thank you very much.
No problem.
Was there anything else? Chet?
That's it.
Okay. So then that would bring us to approval of the agenda, and I believe one late addition concerning the fiber optic cable. Did you, Melinda, you wanted to speak to that at all?
Yeah, he knows stuff.
You have to unmute your thing.
And with April 2.
What's that? Oh, yes, oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, we haven't
Yes.
heard you yet. Okay,
Okay.
go.
Here we go.
Yes, we hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Yes, if we could add some discussion about the towers before we get to the first action item. So concerns by Cherry Capital Connections as C1.
Okay, so you want to put it right at the beginning then?
Yes, please.
Well-
It's C1. All towers.
C1.
Yeah, put
Okay,
it-
okay, C1, all right, that sounds good. And then also, we put at A, we would like to put in about April, she has a donation she'd like us to add to our agenda to accept. So that would be right at the beginning, I'd put it before Ben Z. Leelanau District Health Department, so I just call that A. And it's April donation. Or I should say senior services donation, sorry.
Okay.
With that, could we have a motion to accept the agenda as amended? Commissioner Wessel?
I move to accept the agenda as amended.
Support.
Okay. Oh, that was Melinda. All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, do the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you. So then that brings us to public comment. If we have any, the number would be 231-256-8103. 231-256-8103.
They're saying they're not receiving anything. There's no link. Are you sure anyone's seen this in the outside world?
Well, just go on YouTube and type in Leelanau
It
County.
says for watching now.
Try
All the
again.
links do not work
The links on the agenda don't work.
Maybe they need a different.
All right, hearing no public comment, then we will move on to the action
We
items.
do have two that came in though,
I'm sorry.
Well, it's,
written comments too.
should we read these?
Yes, please.
The one is from Tim
Malone.
Malone, but I think you're gonna handle that under towers.
Yes, we'll handle that, so you don't,
Okay, the other one is from Lois Bailey. Please include my comments concerning communication towers. In light of recent and ongoing events, it has become more apparent that high-speed internet communication is essential for anyone doing business remotely or ongoing education at all levels. The Commission should support any effort to find locations for towers as an essential service for our citizens, rather than zoning to restrict. There may be various choices, but just saying no is not an option. Respectfully, Lois Bailey, Suttons Bay.
thank you. So that would be our public comment. And then, so we'll move on then to the donation. Do we
I
have,
believe April's on the phone or on the line though.
Good morning.
good morning.
So I come before you asking permission to accept a donation that we received from Northport Covenant Church for $1,000 and asking that be placed in our pandemic account.
Commissioner Rushton.
I would recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept the contributions given to the Leelanau County Senior Services from Northport Covenant Church totaling $1,000 to be placed in the Leelanau County Senior Services Pandemic Donation Account ending in 675019.
Support.
So both Patricia and Ty. Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, all those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Can I give you a couple numbers that are kind of exciting?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so as of this week, we have helped deliver 1,500 frozen meals to seniors in the county. We've gotten 25 seniors on the Meals on Wheels routes. We've distributed 35 quarantine boxes that were given to us from the Aging and Adult Services office out of Lansing. We've given out 61 produce bags, 6 gallons of distilled water, and we've helped to deliver 1,775 restaurant meals. And with your approval of the $1,000, we've received a total of $2,656 to help with pandemic food and unmet needs. So, so it's very exciting. So, thank you.
That is, yes. Any other comments? Any of the commissioners?
I have
Thank
a
you,
question.
April. Yes, Commissioner Rushton.
I had a question for April. The 1,500 frozen meals, did your department deliver that personally?
Yes, we did. We've been delivering an Empire, and then we've been going to Leelanau Christian Neighbors on Mondays and distributing to those seniors that are coming through for food pantry services as well. And then we've been home delivering some additional ones when we find a senior that has a real high need for food.
Great work with you and your team this year. We appreciate all that you do for our seniors.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, then we move on to the Benzie Leelanau District Health Department Early Childhood Update. We have Dodie and Autumn here, I believe.
Oh, hi, Michelle. I'm here.
Oh, Michelle too, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. So
Great.
yes, so we wanted to give you an update on what's going on with the early childhood programming. So Dodie is here to answer any finance questions, and Autumn Urick is here. Autumn is our new supervisor for the Parenting Communities program. For those of you who don't know her, she's been, a nurse with us and a maternal child nurse for a lot of years, and she's a really strong leader, and she's really enmeshed in the early childhood, community in Leelanau County. So she's going to be great at this. So I believe anyway, you all have a copy of the work plan that we developed. So this work plan was based on the scope of objectives that we put together with the contract when we signed that with the commissioners. So we really have 3 primary objectives we're working on for this first 9-month planning phase. The first is has to do with establishing a county early childhood advisory committee. So the purpose of this committee would be to give us some oversight, help to identify the needs in the community, make sure that we are doing strategic planning that's really meeting those needs, and to make sure we're using tax dollars, wisely. I mean, so we're not duplicating efforts, and we're kind of braiding programming, so we're filling gaps. So by the end of this week, I'm planning to be posting for that early childhood coordinator position, and that will be a contract position as well for the time being anyway. And then the second objective is maintaining our parenting community services at the level they have been and putting that infrastructure in place so that we can expand that over the next year. And Autumn, since you're here, why don't you give us a little bit of an update on what Parenting Communities has been doing for the last, month or two.
You have to unmute your thing, Autumn.
Yeah, I was just doing that. So we kind of hit the ground running as we were starting to get organized, of course, is when the COVID crisis really hit. So the first thing we decided to do was to establish our own outreach project, reaching out to families that were already known to us, and then from those families getting referrals for other families in the community to just kind of get a good feeling for what their needs were and for support. So far on that project, we had 187 families on the call list. We were able to reach 85 of them initially. We coordinated with Leelanau Christian Neighbors with Mary Stanton to be able to deliver packages from the baby pantry and from the food pantry, as well as some additional materials that we put together here for activities for children and just educational parent education stuff to put in the care packages. We were able to deliver 28 care packages and also made referrals to DHS, mostly for food assistance. We assisted families with applying for unemployment. We got people that weren't on services here at the health department in for WIC or for immunizations. If they weren't able to, get those services already through their own care providers. Also, we encountered 2 people that were really in need of some mental health services that we were able to connect with our social worker, Amanda Stowe, to help them navigate and get connected with those services. We've changed our model from home visiting currently to telehealth visits. And during this time, we've continued with that. So Amanda has done 15 telehealth social work visits. And Kathy and Holly have continued to do visits as well, with Kathy doing 15 and Holly doing 4. Holly's really stepped up, and you may know that she's incredible with technology. So she's really been our go-to gal for, we've kind of enhanced our Facebook presence. We created a group within our page to kind of enhance the interactive capacity with families in the community. Kathy and Holly have converted playgroups to virtual playgroups, and we've had 3 of those so far. We've also just recently opened an Instagram account that we're going to work on getting up and running as an additional way to connect with people. And we just published our first monthly newsletter that we're going to continue from here on. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, so in the background, I've been pouring through policies that parent communities had in place previously to kind of determine how that's going to fit with our model from here on. And we're in some planning phases of how we can do to every community in the county over the summer, with all the cancellations that have taken place as far as Cherry Festival and really everything's been canceled, right? So it kind of opens a niche for us to have smaller gatherings of families together in smaller communities, address that need for people to still be out and collaborating with each other, maybe in a smaller fashion rather than, right, where we can host.
It's ringing.
So we're connecting with schools,
No,
through our
so you can
newsletter,
hear.
and, just trying to make all the connections and trying to make a face for ourselves.
I'll take it.
He's in there right now.
Thank you.
And then the last objective we have in our work plan 2 has to do with
Silent.
really putting together that comprehensive
There's no ring.
implementation
There's no
plan
ring.
There's no
moving
ring.
forward.
It's there. There's no
And
ring.
so we have started looking, as Autumn mentioned, we're looking at what metrics we want to use for measurements and how we can evaluate those. So we want to be able to give you all not just the numbers of people served, that's important, but not just that, but also, are we making changes in parental stress and social connections? Are more kids getting access to physical, child checkups and dental care and the services that they need?
They said their phone was
So-
not ringing. People were trying to call in, so we're on Zoom.
So with that said, do you have any questions on the finances, the work plan, anything else?
Commissioner Wessel.
I wanted to just compliment you on the newsletter. I think it came out yesterday. It was very informative, and thank you very much.
Commissioner Sudas Little.
I want to say ditto to what Ty just said, but also to comment on what you have done in 1 month and how incredibly timely this has been for our families that are coping with the pandemic crisis. So thank you for not only handling all of your health duties, but for putting in place the Parenting Communities program and moving it forward at a rapid pace and in such an amazingly efficient manner. So congratulations and thank you.
Yeah, I definitely commend the Parenting Communities team for so quickly switching gears. Okay, now what do we need to do to serve these families? And so many of them have been just so appreciative that somebody's reaching out to check in on them. And, and now even if they didn't need our help immediately, they know where to call if something comes up or they're, having issues with kids or health or anything else. So it's good to have that resource out there. Yeah, they've done a great job for sure.
Yeah, I had I got the first one was you're doing the early childhood advisory committee. And I got the third one you said is the educational plan. I missed what was the second part of it, I guess. Was that
The
what
second
was-
objective, you mean?
Yes.
That was related to parenting community. Since that's a program that had already been in place, it's just to really create a solid infrastructure, the policies, the procedures, training, staffing, and to maintain, a level of service and make sure we're meeting the needs of the community.
Okay, so that's what Autumn talked about then.
Right.
That
Right.
was a description of number 2. Okay.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Are there any other questions for her? Seeing none, all right. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And thank you for the letter. I mean, the newsletter. That was very nice. Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any COVID questions while we're here?
So when are they going to open it up?
Boy, I answer that question about 20 times a day, and I don't know. You know what? If you haven't seen the most recent plan the governor put out that lists her different phases and the criteria to open up each phase, it's really worth looking at. I'd be happy to shoot it out to you by email if you'd like that.
No, I have looked at it. I'm just hoping that
We just don't know the
change, I guess.
timing. Yeah, we just don't know
Right.
the timing. Yeah. Okay.
Commissioner Rushton.
Body testing. Is that something that's going to be available to the community as a whole?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have been really building our capacity. So Northwest Michigan Health Services, I don't know if you all are familiar with them. They have an office that's on M72, just, I don't know, 1/10 of a mile, probably from Tom's West Bay.
Right
They
behind
have a drive-
Tom's?
Yes, yep. They have a drive-through testing site set up. So they have the capacity now. They can test people who don't have any symptoms, so people who think they might have been exposed. They can test you if you have symptoms. There is still an order required from your doctor, so you should go through your healthcare provider. They can just send an order over to them, and then they'll call you to schedule an appointment. And they, in fact, are tasked with really building our testing capacity and testing so we know what's going on in our community.
Will those tests reflect whether that person has antibodies to the COVID or
No.
not?
No, that's a
Right,
test
right.
that just tells you if you're infected now. The antibody testing is still being studied. There are tests out there. There are tests out there being sold that are not FDA approved, and we don't know anything about accuracy. What we don't know, though, if you get an antibody test and we have a certain level, we don't know what that means. Does that mean that we don't know where that level of immunity is or how long it lasts. So I think there'll be a lot more with antibody testing coming up.
And that's my concern for those who are at highest risk. I think that would be an important component. So, those people
Absolutely.
know if they have the antibodies to fight the virus off individually. Mhm.
Right. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah. As I understand, COVID is much like the common cold. We have not found a vaccine for the common cold. And personally, I don't see where we're going to have a vaccine in the very near future. For all of my life, I have never seen a cure for the cold. What's your opinion?
Yeah. So there are some differences between this and the common cold. And I know that there is a study that's starting in Kalamazoo, in fact, for a vaccine, just the first stages of the study. So, that is also a giant question mark. We don't know what that's going to look like. There's so much we don't know about this virus. We don't know if it will mutate and look really different next year. Like the flu virus changes all the time. So we just don't know. We don't know. Maybe a year from now, enough of us will have had it and we'll have immunity that it's really not a problem in the community anymore. There's so many question marks, and it's very frustrating for everybody, I think.
Has there been much discussion about herd immunity at the health department and how that would play out?
There is some discussion about that. Yeah. So, we know based on other diseases, that if you have good herd immunity, then the risk is obviously not very, isn't as high for others when they're walking around the community because people aren't getting sick. But again, because we don't know enough about this, we don't know how long your immunity lasts. And that's one of the big questions. So even if you have it, we don't know if your immunity lasts for 3 months or for 10 years or forever. So that's
good, good point.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, well,
so-
thank you for your information.
Yeah, as vague as it was.
Well,
Commissioner,
It's all-
oops,
I'm
No,
sorry,
yeah.
Will.
I'm sorry, I thought you were through.
That's okay, I'm done.
All right, so any other questions or statements for Michelle? Seeing none, thank you very much, Michelle. We really appreciate it, and Autumn and Dodie.
You're welcome. We'd be happy to come back anytime.
All right, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
you all have a good day.
You too. So then it'd be an update on the potential tower for the Government Center campus.
Okay, so just to bring the commissioners up to speed, we did have the RFP reviewed by legal counsel. And actually, the attorney and I had a nice little chuckle over it because we utilized a previous RFP that we used for the Omena Tower. And she hacked it all up. It was kind of funny. So she made a lot of different changes to it. And we went back and forth and everything checks out. So we should be submitting that hopefully today. And it will be live and we'll be collecting bids until June 15th. And then we will analyze those and bring it to the board on a decision to move forward.
Any questions for Matt? Seeing none, then we'll move on to the Maple City Tower, the third amendment to the agreement with AT&T.
All right, so the third amendment, their upgraded equipment that they want to put on the tower is going to increase the loading slightly. And it was actually by their recommendation that they increase the rent. And our tower consultant agreed that that was sufficient for the increase that they proposed. So a third amendment was necessary in order to increase the rent by $200 a month. And that's what I'm bringing before the board.
Commissioner Ansorgi.
Yes, thank you. I'm looking at the executive document summary, and there is no change in the budgeted or contracted amount, even though there's an increase in revenue. And I guess this is a question for Michelle. Shouldn't that be showing either as a negative number or a revenue number in the contracted amount? And in this case, $2,400?
Normally on the EDSs, those are only if you're going to be purchasing services, but we certainly could do that. That's not an issue.
Well, from a financial standpoint, we should be realizing, this is the impact either to our budget or outside our budget. That's what I assume the EDS was for.
Correct. So you want to see what it was prior and then what it will be with the current.
Well, I would say, I want to see what the change is. So I don't know, I'm just speaking for myself. I look at these executive document summaries and expect to see certain information there that, is this something I need to worry about? Is this something that has a financial impact? That kind of thing.
It would appear to me that the rent that they're going to be paying to us is going to increase by $4,082.99.
Well, I thought it was an additional
$200 a month.
Should be
Okay, I'm just reading from the 200 per month, bringing the monthly rental rate to, so the 200 per month will increase it then. Is that correct, Matt?
Correct.
Yes.
So Tony, you're looking for the former contract amount to be in, say, budgeted amount, and then in the contracted amount, the new amount, and then it would tell you the difference?
We could do it that way, or you could just say, this is the change. I don't care either way, but I think we need to realize that there is a financial impact here.
Yeah, I think so, but I think we should know what the contracted full amount is in the end.
Okay.
Sure, we can work with Matt to get that. It will increase $200 per month to a total of $4,082, so it must have been at $39,82.99, Matt?
Yeah, it was under 4,000. This $200 a month brought it over 4,000.
And Commissioner Ansel, I'm just reading from page 7, the rent, but that certainly can be included on the front page of the EDS.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yep, so that we can make sure that when those are turned in, that we include that.
You know, I'm not, my intent was not to hold up this approval, but going forward with any EDS, that's what I'm looking for. And, you know, I can figure this out here, but I wanted to make sure that, you know, any project that we're looking at, we should know the financial impact of that project.
Thank you. Commissioner Rushton.
Yes, one other item I would like to address on this. I noticed the original agreement was in 2012. Is that correct, Matt?
Yeah, that's when they renegotiated the entire contract, and we've had amendments since then.
Right, and I've noticed in 2019, we reset the clock, and now again, they're requesting that we reset the clock. And my question to you is, what is the advantage to the county to reset that clock?
Well, it ensures that AT&T is going to be a long-term partner with the county. So we have set a maximum of 15 years per agreement, and this locks AT&T in for 15 years on the Maple City Tower.
And is that in the best interest of the county?
I would say yes, because our cellular counterparts, the co-locators on the tower, they do have a substantial amount of rent that is paid to the county. So that's a good source of our revenue. It would be my opinion that we want to keep AT&T and Verizon and Sprint very happy on our towers.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Lautner.
Thank you. I agree that we want to keep those 3 providers happy, but I want to make sure that we keep all of our providers happy. So this additional equipment, is that going to take more bandwidth? And because I see we did a study on whether the tower could structurally hold these new antennas, okay? Mm-hmm. But what about interference? Because those are my concerns with what's coming up next on the agenda, is the interference with the other providers.
Right. On all of our contracts, we do have an interference clause. So the carriers that are on the tower currently, as long as they don't interfere with one another, everything should be fine. As we bring in new co-locators, if they cause interference, they have to change in order to remain on the tower. So as long as new people don't cause interference, that's the intent of that interference clause.
Okay, so that sort of answers my question. But what you didn't answer is, first of all, is this more bandwidth?
AT&T would be providing more capability with bandwidth. Their transmission will increase, but it's at a different operating level than what other people are on the tower. AT&T and Verizon are the ones that are competing for that on the tower currently, and they work very well trying to stay away from one another as far as that interference is concerned.
So then the second part of that question would be, will they interfere with the new providers? You say no because it's a different level?
More than likely, they will not have that kind of interference with new providers, but it will be on the new providers coming on the tower not to interfere with the existing lessees.
What if they're already there? Then they're not new providers. How many providers are on that tower? Start there.
We have AT&T, Verizon, and one internet service provider right now.
Okay, so those 3 are already there.
Yes.
So after those 3, you would want to make sure a new provider didn't interfere, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the clause in this contract that says that AT&T won't interfere with the other 2. Is that correct?
Whenever they make changes to their equipment, it cannot affect the other co-locators on the tower. So if we put 4 more ISPs on the tower and AT&T makes adjustments to their equipment will not be able to affect anybody else on that tower.
Okay.
So it is applicable to everybody, but who's on there first is what really counts.
How then do you make room for new providers on that tower and allow them to have the ability to provide good service because one company and a large company was there first, they can get all the bandwidth they want, but a new provider can't interfere with them? Fiber.
Well, yeah.
Right?
What AT&T is doing is they're putting more equipment within their space on the tower. So they have, let's just call it 10 feet of the tower that they're putting their equipment on. They're adding more antennas in that 10-foot zone. That's not taking up more space to where ISPs could put equipment further down on the tower or above the equipment. Depends on where they're located on the tower. So they're not necessarily taking space away from other co-locators.
No, it's not the space I'm talking about. It's the broadband beyond the tower that it doesn't interfere out there.
Okay. Well, they will be operating at different capacities. So whether it's 5 gigahertz or 600, 700, it all will affect differently.
Okay. I understand. I don't think there's a problem with this one for today, at least.
Commissioner Ansargi.
Back to the discussion about changing the term and piggybacking on or resetting the term. You know, obviously that gives the person leasing the space, you know, an assurance that they got space there for the next 15 years or whatever. The question I have is, you know, obviously we're locking in the rate for another 15 years. And how often does the rate change on a business standpoint? You know, if we were out there looking at the market, you know, there's a limited number of spaces out there. I would assume that the rates have been going up a little bit every year, just because there's a lack of space out there and that people, you know, have to compete for that space. So by locking it in for a longer period of time, are we losing revenue?
Negative. In each contract, there are multipliers. So every year, AT&T's rent goes up by 3%. So there is a 3% growth every year, regardless of whether they start at year 1 with this one or if they continue on.
Commissioner Rushton.
In reading through some of these contracts, and I can't put my finger on it at this moment, but I see that there's an annual, or I'm sorry, a renewal of 5%. So do we have different percentages for different contracts?
For the ISPs, we did work it differently for them, being smaller companies, having a bigger chunk every 5 years as opposed to a smaller chunk every year. They were more agreeable to that, and that's how we have moved forward with those increases.
So AT&T, the larger company, has a smaller fee or a larger fee?
They pay more in rent every month, and they have a 3% increase every year. And
every year, not every contract.
Correct.
Okay. And the other, how does that compare to the other contracts? What do these contracts look like?
Are we talking about ISPs or other cellulars like Verizon?
Who's on the tower?
We have Verizon and AT&T on the Maple City Tower.
Okay.
Verizon and AT&T have vastly similar contracts. They both pay annual increases, 3% off the top of my head. I would want to verify that for you.
Mhm. You know, maybe it would be a good idea to prepare a document for the commissioners next week so that we can take a look at what these contracts look like in a comprehensive report. You know, as you know, Matt, the county has very limited ability for sources of revenue. And so we want to make sure, especially at this time, that we're getting the appropriate revenue for the services that we provide. So maybe this would be, maybe this would be a good time for us to take a look at that.
I provide those to accounting and the clerk's office every year.
Oh, well, that's great. Then that information is readily available. So if you'll coordinate that so the commissioners have the information for next week, I'd appreciate it. And it will also prepare us when budget time comes as well.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Rettenbach.
I would like to recommend the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to approve and authorize the County Board Chairman to sign the third amendment to the tower lease agreement for AT&T on the Maple City Tower site. Further, to reset the terms of the agreement to the first year of 3 new 5-year terms.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So then that brings us to the all towers. We have the number one would be the addition about the Commissioner Lautner had requested. Do you want to speak to that, please?
Apparently people were able to call in this morning on public comment. They just got our operating veterans affairs apparently. So do we, if you want to give the number for Tim to call in, he'd like to call in at this time.
Yes, the number is 231-256-8103. 231, and we did get that repaired. I guess the volume was down on the ringer, so we didn't hear it ring.
Okay. So it'll take probably just a second to call in.
Hi, Tim.
Yes.
Okay. Tim is on the line. Mr. Malone's on the line.
So we didn't read his statement in public comment. So I guess Tim does want to read his public comment statement at this time, or just address the concerns that have with the next two agenda topics.
Do you want to comment, Mr. Malone, or do you want to read your public comment statement?
I guess I can just read my public comments.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and do it now?
Okay. So I'm Tim Malone. I'm the CEO of Cherry Capital Connection. We're a modern telephone company. Hang on, my turn. There we go. We're licensed by the Michigan Public Service Commission as a CLEC, and we currently have lease agreements for all 5 towers in Leelanau County, but we don't have active equipment on all of them. We've had some delay in scheduling an appointment with the structural engineer to be on site when we install our equipment, such as Maple City. We've been delivering high-speed internet in Leelanau County for the past 15 years, and it's been a pleasure working with the Emergency Management Group and the administration. They're very professional and thoughtful in all their dealings. However, we believe that in reviewing the current leases for the 2 new vendors, that they may not have considered the harm that would be caused by Cherry Capital Connection and potentially other lessees. And it deals with the frequency. The frequency is an unlicensed, so it's not especially in the ISP world, can do a study and determine whether or not there is a negative effect of the frequencies that are in those license or in the leases. The 5 gigahertz is in a 5.1 to 5.9 gigahertz range. There's multiple gaps there. And that frequency today in Leelanau County is extremely saturated and making it very difficult just to conduct current business, much less adding 2 more vendors to that would saturate that space to the point where it'd be impossible for us to serve approximately 400 households in Leelanau County. And so it is pretty significant. The FCC has addressed this by opening up 6 gigahertz and CBRS. These frequencies are in direct response to a nationwide problem with the 5.1 to 5.9 frequency. And that study should be able to identify that and allocate to the ISPs a shared resource in 6 gigahertz and CBRS. We do support very much so the Grand Traverse Band fiber. We are building fiber in Leelanau County. With the Grand Traverse Band fiber, we've already offered to Lease a dozen or so meet points throughout Leelanau County so we can take that fiber and extend it to every home within Leelanau County. There's all kinds of processes as a telephone company to make that happen, and it increases the Grand Traverse Band investment in the county. Right now, we're limited to Spectrum and AT&T, and that does limit and slow down our growth. In addition to encouraging the Grand Traverse Band, we're also working with 2 other regional fiber backbone providers to construct fiber throughout Leelanau County. Just a little bit of an update that I'd love to come to the county and give an update maybe the next meeting is that our 2020 fiber build-out starts between Leland and Northport, where we have 500 homes that will start construction in July, connecting those homes on fiber to the internet. We're in the permitting process right now. That will involve the county and the state and associations. We're confident that the Grand Traverse Band fiber team and other fiber providers are going to make a significant contribution to Leelanau County. So I do ask you to consider our concern. We want to continue doing business in Leelanau County, but we don't want to create a situation of interference by oversaturating, and we're asking for that study to be done. So thank you very much for allowing me to make these comments.
Commissioner Lautner.
Thank you, Will. That being said, I would like to move to table. I'm going to make a statement before I make my motion. I've learned a lot in the last few days. So keep our back on this, and I know there's a lot more to learn. And the more I learn, the more questions I have. And I think this is really important. Get our end game of, which is wide, and especially fiber countywide if possible. I believe that to do that, we've got to be able to make a fair playing field for all providers in, because I think each provider can provide an area better than another, or a little niche differently than perhaps any other. So I don't want to see any harm come to any of our providers. I appreciate what Mr. Malone said about working with our emergency management and supporting the band bringing fiber. But before we move forward, I want to make sure that we are doing the absolute best thing for all of the county. So I would ask that we have a special meeting on just this tower issue, because as the previous discussion, more great questions came up about the towers. I know a few of us do sit on the tower committee or the 911 committee and learn a little bit more, especially about the revenue end of the county of that, but not all of us do, so we've missed out on that portion of it. So I would ask that we table this for today and have a special meeting to we get to bring in all the providers, sit down face to face, answer all these questions. I know Mr. Malone is still on the phone if there are more questions about this, but I would move to table these next two issues.
Okay, we're having a technical difficulty. I only can see Commissioner Lautner on the screen, and
Mr.
Could you ask?
so,
This is
yes.
Commissioner
Go ahead,
Sotis Little.
Commissioner
My
Little.
hand.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions for Matt.
Well, there's a
Matt,
motion.
Are we going to have a second on the motion?
I seconded.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So
just
Commissioner Little, go ahead.
thank you. It's Matt. One of the questions alone, and nice to hear your voice on the line. One of the questions that Mr. Malone made was his lease agreements for all 5 towers. Now, I know he is on 2, but I don't remember seeing agreements for the remaining 3. Clarify that.
He is making steps to put his equipment on all 5 towers. As he stated, he's not currently on all 5. But he has already entered into the agreement. He has agreed with the county to pursue expanding his footprint in Leelanau County and serving the citizens. So he does have everything in order to move forward. He just had, as he said, he had the conflicts with timing and whatnot.
Right, right.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of order.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Rushton.
Yes, if we have a motion on the table to table, and it's my understanding that no further discussion is allowed, but instead a vote should be taken at this time. Is that correct?
I think you are. I'm sorry. Yes, yes. So we would have a motion we have a motion and a second to table. So
Do a roll call just.
well, let's have to do a roll call vote because I cannot see everyone.
I unmuted it.
Are they unmuted?
I can see it just fine. I don't know why it did that.
Jen's gonna come in and look at it. Okay, so we're on the motion to table, and I'm gonna have to hear voices because I can't see anyone. Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner Rettenbach,
No.
Commissioner Rushton,
Yes.
Commissioner Sotis Little,
No.
Commissioner Wessel,
No.
Commissioner Ansorgi,
Yes.
Chairman Bonick.
Yes.
So 4 yeses, 3 no on the motion to table.
Thank you.
So
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chairman?
yes, yes, Commissioner Wessel.
Yes, Ron and Matt and a number of stakeholders and all of the ISPs have been meeting for 3 years on this issue. Tabling this at this time, cutting off discussion sounds self-defeating and a little bit irresponsible. I would like to ask Matt a question about the impact of us tabling this, if I could.
Well, I think once it's tabled, that ends the discussion. So I think we have to move on to the next item.
Okay.
So it's tabled for a special meeting, right?
Right, it would have to be a special meeting for this.
Mr. Chairman, what is the special meeting to be on? Exactly.
Well, that's what we'll have to discuss that.
But we can't discuss.
Right, it's been tabled, so we don't have the discussion anymore.
So we don't know what the special meeting will be. So it sounds a bit like a catch-22, but we'll move on.
I'm sorry, but that when you table it, that we move on to the next item. So Grand Traverse Band co-location agreement.
Well, wasn't that table? These next two were tabled,
Yeah.
1 and 2.
Oh, they're all
So
actually.
we're down to D.
Okay, so we're down to the Federal Economic Development Administration grant for potential tower expansion.
Okay, so by recommendation of the LIFT committee, they are pursuing a EDA grant in order to expand broadband service in
I'm
Leelanau.
sorry, Matt, you may want to explain what an EDA grant is.
Hey, Ron?
What does EDA stand for?
Economic Development Administrative Grant.
Lady
It's
said
a
that she was
federally
messing with turning it on and off,
funded
and I think that's what.
I'm afraid to go and do something without drop the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Can we take a?
But I think she did that.
Maybe we could take a break after this.
Yeah. Go ahead, Commissioner Rushton.
I'm just saying, when you guys talk among yourselves, you're talking over the person that was speaking. So you guys need to be aware of that, because at our end, we're hearing 3 or 4 different people talking all at once. And I believe Matt had the floor.
Yes. Well, what's happening is we can only see one person at a time, and it's very hard, and we're trying to get that corrected here. So I'm sorry that you could hear the talking over it. It's trying to correct the Zoom. So I'm thinking after, at some time, if there's no motion, we should just take a break and see if we can correct this.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just very distracting as well here.
If we take the break right now, can IT look at that? And then maybe, because this is getting a little bit jumbled right now for me.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'd like to do at this time, take a break, and we'll see if we can get everyone back on. So we'll just do that, and we'll come back if we get it, once we get it all corrected.
Okay,
Ron, how much time do you need?
Probably only 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yes, 5 minutes.
Okay, so 5-minute recess.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
But it was definitely something with that.
But it was just this, because YouTube was fine, everybody else.
All right. Lovely. Great technology. Great technology. Thanks, Jen. Wow.
So it's something with this.
Another pass.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It was
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I was just trying to, I know like on the iPad, you have controls on top. You can choose whatever view you want to watch.
Have her the other day on.
Yeah.
Bring her in. Is that focused right then on you guys? Camera?
Yeah, you can see well. No, put it up a little bit. You're cutting the top of our heads off.
Oh, look at that.
There, now we look good. Carol did a good job picking up Will's tie today.
Yeah.
Honest to God. I did not touch that.
Sure, Laurel. It worked fine when Ron was in here. Don't go very far, Rod.
No, I'm here at my desk. I'm watching from there, but it looked fine for me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And we have the monitor here corrected, so if everybody would come back, that would be good.
Well, that's just like a regular board meeting. You have to wait for them to come back.
Yeah.
All right. Is everyone muted? Laurel?
We are live. Do it.
You can hear me, can you? Because I can't hear you.
You can see the mute button on the bottom there.
All right, can you hear us now? Yes, all right.
Are they muted?
Yes, we'll move forward then with the Federal Economic Development Administration grant for the potential tower expansion.
Okay, so
Matt?
by recommendation from the LIFT committee, they would like to apply for the federal grant, the EDA grant in order to pursue some tower expansion. What this grant has to do is it has to be applied for by a basically a county entity. It can't be the committee of LIFT itself. So they have to apply on behalf of the county. You need the board's permission in order to do that. And what it will do is increase the assets for Leelanau County as far as tower is concerned. They do want to look at the tower possibility in Glen Arbor on Miller Hill. The Glen Arbor Township Supervisor is part of the LIFT committee and he's very committed to expanding tower access within the county. And that is an ideal location that we have identified for a couple of years now. But what this project's going to do, Networks Northwest has identified over 60 local businesses that have at least 15 employees that will be positively impacted by this tower expansion. The grant is looking to promote business continuity and preparedness, especially in the COVID-19 era. Working from home is going to be a necessity, and that could be a building block for economic growth, which is another focus of this grant. Could create jobs for citizens of Leelanau County. So we're looking to apply for this, and we're going to see if we can tie in the law enforcement center tower as well, because there will be a match involved. Exactly what that is not yet known. We could be paying 20% of the grant, and since we're already encompassing the law enforcement, the second law enforcement tower, that could be our leverage match. I think that we can probably have Commissioner Sotis Little comment a little bit more about the grant itself.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sotis Little.
Well, Matt, thank you. You've done a yeoman job of broad brushing what we know. The notice of public funding or funding opportunity just came out a couple of days ago. So we're all going through, when I say all, that's Matt and Ron and others at the county and other members of LIFT, including the Grand Traverse Band. We're pouring through the NOVA, trying to be cognizant of all of the different facets that we can build into for Leelanau County being successful in a grant application. It looks like we can utilize the impact on schools as well. I mean, I think we're at a stage where no one is going to argue the value of high-speed internet service. Our entire county has felt it, our businesses very, very dramatically, our schools and families very dramatically. We still have large pockets in the county that have no service, others that have dial-up service. And this is something that we've been looking at both as a county and through the Leelanau Internet Futures Team Committee for over 2 years now, trying to look at potential solutions. One of the this grant does cover infrastructure, so it would allow, if successful, the construction of a tower, as Matt said, over in the Glen Arbor area, which is a real deficit for any type of broadband capability, high speed. And also would potentially cover part of the cost of the tower at the government center, because as Matt said, there may be a match. We don't know yet what it is. That's going to be done on an individual basis based on the impact that COVID-19 has had to that community. So it'll be decided by the regional administrators, but it could be 0%, it could be 10%, it could be 20%. If it's 20%, that means that 80% of that county tower would be eligible in the grant, and only 20% would be used as match. So that's what he's talking about when we're talking about leveraging it, utilizing it from that standpoint. So we're just at the beginning of putting this together. We do know that the funds are going to come in, and it's part of the whole CARES packaging, so they're going to go out fast. And the Public Service Commission, who's worked with us over the past 2.5 years, was very encouraging, because we do have this shovel-ready, quote, project to move forward with this. It benefits the county and it benefits the community and everybody in it at this point in time. So it would provide 2 more county-owned towers that again would bring in revenue to the county. So I'd love to give details beyond that, but frankly, I don't have them yet. We're meeting on Thursday with Matt and Ron and others to talk about focus on the grant and what we need in terms of building our case a little stronger to move forward. I do know we will be shooting to try to move this quickly in order to have the opportunity to be considered, but it's one way to help defray costs on something that we desperately need, utilizing grant dollars instead of county dollars.
Commissioner Rushton.
That's very exciting information, and thank you for the work that you and Matt have done on this. I do not see anything in here for action today. Is this just informational?
What we were hoping to do is just bring the topic up, move it forward to week. That gives us time to provide you and all of us with the necessary information to make an honest discussion on. So basically, today is just to move it forward.
Commissioner Lautner.
Yes, thank you. Well, that was my first question. We haven't seen the information, so can we get the information to study that? I have no problem moving this forward. I do have a question of, and maybe it will be in the documents with the tower, but as I understand, we get our county moving forward with fiber. That's one of the things I want to learn is how many years out are we from being completely all fiber? And would that eliminate most of our towers? That may be a map. So if in the future we don't need this tower anymore on Miller Hill, can it be disassembled? And is that okay with grant, et cetera?
Matt, do you want to take that?
Yeah, we'd have to look more at the grant to see about disassembling. I don't see the tower necessity going away for the county. Building fiber throughout the county is extremely expensive. It can cost upwards of $30,000 a mile to run fiber. The underserved areas of Leelanau County are not densely populated, so it's very difficult for companies to go into those areas and actually run the fiber. The return on investment is just not going to be there. So having the tower availability, they can get fiber to the tower and then do a wireless hop into other locations. I do see that as being a very necessary part of their build out. And as far as it trumping any of our use of the towers, I honestly don't think that's going to come into play.
Okay. Well, my concern was I appreciate the supervisor encouraging a tower over there. As long as the people will go for it. As stated before, zoning is a big issue because we've had a real hard time in the past siting towers in our county, even if they're needed. They've still been fought by the public. That's a very gorgeous area of our county. You know, Miller Hill's a high site. It'll be seen for miles. And as long as we know the need is there, there's no question the need is there. But whether the public wants it or not will remain to be seen.
Commissioner Rettenbach.
My location here in Glen Arbor Township is such that I don't even have access to cable television or natural gas. And to think that I'm going to get fiber to my house is probably not realistic. And I would definitely be in favor of a tower on Miller Hill. The township owns the property right at the lookout there, and they can put it right on their own, their own property. So I think it'll be very popular.
Commissioner Sudas Little.
Matt, in a moment, I want to address also the fact that it will enhance 911. If we were able to then purchase the equipment to go along with that, it's a benefit from two perspectives. But I think we're going to be quite a way in getting fiber to the home, as nice as it would be. Ultimately, probably will be the way to go, or some other new technology might be on the horizon replacing that. But in the interim, it does allow getting fiber or getting high speed to the home. And just going on the number of calls and inquiries I've had during the pandemic crisis, because people know that I've been associated with working on this issue, I think the attitude of the public is changing. Now, I agree it still has to go through the process of whatever Glen Arbor Township deems that to be. But I have a feeling that there will be a much more receptivity than there has been in the past, as long as it's done carefully and wisely. And hopefully downstream, we will have capability of fiber to the home. But I know Mr. Malone has been working on this for over 2 years and still has yet to be able to have companies and contracts and permits to be able to begin what he would like to see in a smaller version in just a few sections of the county he'd like to see it in. So it's just a measure of how difficult it is and how expensive it is. Matt, do you want to address the 911 aspect?
Yeah, as far as the grant is concerned, the 911 is not going to be a primary focus for the award, but it will be a secondary benefit for us. As far as that location, if we were to equip it with our 800 megahertz capability on that tower, we would be able to service quite a substantial amount of area. A lot of it would be federal and state land, so we could look to federal and state partners in order to put equipment on that tower. So anything that we can do to minimize the costs that the county has to equip the tower, we will be pursuing that. But the South and North Manitou Islands will see a market improvement with radio reception, and even areas that we currently have problems with around Pyramid Point. Now, when you go to the other side of the bluff, that's just that's no man's land. We'd have to have towers every half mile in order to cover areas like that. But this is going to substantially increase a lot of radio and cellular and ISP capabilities in the Glen Arbor area, which has been widely underserved.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Sotoslova.
I'd like to make a motion to move this agenda topic forward to our meeting next week.
Support.
Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
So then that would then bring us to the planning community. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Planning development and Re-Monumentation plan. I think that we have Mrs. Brown here.
And Trudy.
And Trudy? Yes. Oh yeah, I see Trudy too. Sorry.
Good morning. Today I have before you a revision to the Leelanau County Re-Monumentation Plan. The state required this revision, and Vicki Brown, who's our county representative and a licensed surveyor, has worked on those revisions. So the next step would be approval by the county board of the plan and then final submittal to the state. The revisions outline the work that's already been done, the corners that are still to be completed, and any corners that would not be done, basically because of their location and difficulty in getting to the corners. The program preserves the original survey corners that were done in Leelanau County. And after this, when everything is completed, we would go into what's called a maintenance plan. Yesterday, I emailed out to you a fact sheet from Vicki that basically explains the start of the program and then where the money comes from for the Re-Monumentation, excuse me, and the maintenance program, and then a little bit more information. So I asked Vicki to also be in on this today because she is the licensed surveyor. She is the county representative on this program and has worked with us for many years on this. And I thought she would be the one to answer any of the detailed questions you might have on the program.
Well, I guess one of my questions was concerning the 40%, or that's the maximum that we get back, and then it goes down to 20%. So where does the rest of the money go? Does the state keep that?
Yes, I can help you out with that one. So if you read the fact sheet, the money that we get every year was actually money collected 2 years prior. But we don't get all that money. We get two disbursements. The first one is 40% of that amount that we collected by that $4 recording fee 2 years prior. And then the next amount is all the rest of the money is in a pool that's the whole state of Michigan, the program for the whole state of Michigan is allowed to access. And that's where the area factor comes in. So the amount that we get after that is based on the area of Leelanau County divided by the area of the state of Michigan. So that's why we get a pretty small amount. If you looked at all the grant amounts, we're the third lowest. Because we have the third lowest in the area, and maybe we don't collect that much in recording fees. You'd have to ask the director.
Okay. Any other, Commissioner Answergi?
Yes, thank you. I understand that we're not going to go out and re-monument in the areas that are publicly owned and not near any private property or touching private property. But when I look at the Solon Township and the markers on, that'd be page 77 of our handout. And I see out there in the Solon Swamp that there are private property parcels out there, but we're not going to re-monument even though they're touching them. Can you explain that to me?
We have attempted to do that. We have attempted in the last few years to get back in there and re-monument some of those corners, because many of those large tracts, or even if they're hunting tracts, it's still important that people know where the corners are. And we were just wading in water. And at that point, what do you set as a corner? So, we are always open to, if people have information on specific corners that maybe we didn't do because it was wet one year and it's dry the next. We're open to, having people call us and ask us to do something, and we can get, remount money for that.
Well, I do own property out in that area, but not where I'm talking about. And I do hunt out there, and I have found one of the corners that you said you're not going to re-monument. And, I understand that it's wet, but you're not, you can walk around out there with, muck boots and not go over your muck boots any place.
Okay.
Other than right in the streams. And I understand it's difficult, but I don't think we want to necessarily abandon those private property owners out there just because it's difficult. I paid to have my property surveyed, and the guy didn't like it. And I was out there helping him, getting him sight lines, cutting trees and whatnot so he could find the corners. But I do think it's important for those property owners to be able to know where their property is, the private ones. Now, if it's not touching any, these corners or quarter corners or whatever you want to call them, if it's out there in the middle of state land, I don't have a problem with that. But when they're right adjoining private property, I think those property owners have just as much claim to have this work done as anybody else in the county.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. So,
no, that's a good idea, and you'll have to email me the corner, and we'll get it in the program. This is our best idea going forward, but certainly things can be added or taken away, as we go along. I look out at the parkland, the Sleeping Bear parkland. We don't need to go out there and do that because that's not going to change. But these private property parcels, I'm looking, especially at section 15 out there in the Solon Swamp, and number 9 as well. If there's private property there, and it's touching where those corners are supposed to be found, I think we should find them. And, like I said, I know I found one of them out there just because I wanted to know where it was, and I didn't want to get out there on somebody's private property. So, I walked out there with a GPS, and lo and behold, here's a stake with a cement thing, buried in the ground out there. Yeah, it was wet, but it was there from before. I think, we could find a lot of these things if somebody's willing to walk out there and do it. You bet.
So I would, I don't have a problem approving the plan other than changing those markers who we said we're not going to find. If they're adjoining private property, I think we should go and find them.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I would be willing to.
Let me know. Yeah, let me know.
What do we want to do though? We can't approve the plan if we're saying we're not going to find these corners. I would like to amend the plan to find those corners that are adjoining private property, specifically in Solon Township. For those
Okay,
owners.
there's a revision sheet in this plan, and so we'll put that in.
Okay, thank you.
Could we have a motion, please, Commissioner Rettenbach?
I just had a question about the revision that's in the plan. So we can go ahead and recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to approve the 2020 revised Leelanau County Plan for Monumentation and Re-Monumentation. That's a motion. Today with the, that it can be amended on that revision sheet. So moved.
Correct. So do we have a second? Set. Commissioner Lautner has seconds it. Did you want to speak to that, Commissioner Rettenbach?
No, I thought that the plan was very interesting, and I called Trudy yesterday and asked her some questions about meander corners and I forget what. It's interesting, you know, in my neighborhood, the park has little fingers that come into the property mine, and at the bottom of my driveway, there's a little park, you know, marker. And I think, you know, Tony brings up a good point about private property that's adjacent to some of this questionable property. And I know that the park has offers to property owners about expanding their borders. So, you know, it is important that we know where those corners are.
Okay.
Any Commissioner Ansorgi?
I'm just clarifying that the motion includes the revisions that I suggested in Solon Township.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or statements? Commissioner Lautner.
Yeah, thank you. It's kind of interesting because, as Tony mentioned, the importance of these corners. I know some years ago, speaking of Solon, we had a survey come out to try to check one of our property corners, and found that the corner was off by, I think, like 15 feet. And I talked to the Register of Deeds about that, and it was a few years ago. And it's amazing what a difference 15 for my amount of property really didn't make a lot of difference, but for my neighbor who had a very small parcel, that feet pretty large. So I mentioned it, but this corner was done some years ago, and I asked her, well, they, you know, now that was before, yes. So now that we have GPS, will we go back and correct those corners? And I was told, well, probably not. So we really go on 2 different property lines in one of my pieces. And I just wonder, you know, how the down effect of moving onward. So sometimes I'm like, well, my pasture fence, I know it's correct, but they'll say, well, it's off. But by GPS, it's correct, but by this Re-Monumentation marker, it's off. So will we go back and correct those at any time?
The audio is really broken up, so I'm going to do the best I can. Some of the object of the Re-Mon corners is to research these corners, if we can, all the way back to when they set those wooden posts in 1850. And you can only imagine we don't find too many of those. But sometimes we find some stones that were set in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and that's not maybe where the section corner that your property was described from today. So that doesn't mean your corner's wrong. It just, one of those corners is the Re-Mon corner because it's the most historically accurate corner. The other one's called a property controlling corner. And that's probably the case with what you have going on. It doesn't change really. The whole intent is your property is what was described when it was deeded. So as a surveyor now, that's what we do. We try to figure that out.
Well, no, this
Re-Mon is more of a historical program.
okay. No, this was done by Mr. Onan, but back when probably he first started. So it's an actual cement marker. Because trust me, we've got the wood posts and the rocks too. And the funny, but this is a more modern. But before now, GPS, he was off 15 feet. So.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the whole situation. Actually, GPS isn't the be all and end all. We have a lot of trouble in this county because we have so many hills and trees with GPS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
So then thank you very much. Then that brings us to equalization, the potential approval of the 2020 L4029 tax rate request.
Hello.
Hello, would you like to speak to this, Lori, please?
This is our annual L4029 tax rate request, which our department needs submitted by July 1st so we can prepare summer tax bills. What we need is the millage that you would like to put in column 10, which can't be greater than the maximum levy, which is listed in column 9. And then that needs to be submitted back to our department so that we can get it out to the treasurers to prepare tax bills.
Could we have a motion, please? Commissioner Wessel.
I move to recommend a millage rate that does not exceed the maximum allowable millage levy in column 9 and place that millage rate in column 10 is a millage rate requested to be levied July 1 and return L4029 to the Equalization Department.
Commissioner Rettenbach, you second it? Yes. Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Lautner?
Thank you. Last year, Will, I know you and I were lockstep in and trying to see if we could lower this down by even just a little bit, give some relief to our residents, and that wouldn't have been significant. And I supported that, and I would again, because I think these times are really difficult for a lot of people. I've heard from people who own homes, they're making mortgage payments on these homes, but they're rented out and they've been unable to evict renters who are not paying, and those sort of situations. So I feel really bad for those people. It's an awful situation that we're in with that. So at the same time, we have some uncertainties at the county, but we're sitting in a really good position. So I need a motion to approve. I certainly am not going to fight the motion, but I would support amendment to lower it any amount at all we could financially be able to handle before next week if we could come up with a number.
Any other comments or questions? So, I try to reduce it by just even 2 points, but continually. So if my recommendation in my motion would be to make it 3.4274. instead of the 4,276. And just give a little bit, at least $1 or $2 back, something to the people, because we have so much money in the bank at this time. But I know it's under certain times, and that would be my motion to do that. Not hearing a second. Oh, Commissioner
But we
Rushton.
already have a motion, don't we?
What's that?
But there already is a motion.
That's
No.
an amendment.
Yeah, Ty Wesson made a motion.
Oh, so that would be my amendment to it.
Yes.
And
sorry.
I will support the amendment because I do agree that right now the county is in good condition financially because of the work that this board has done over the last several years. I think if we're going to reduce the rate, now would be the time to do that, to let our constituents know that we recognize the pain that they're enduring. And it's a token, I understand that, but I think it's a message that we send that we feel their pain, and, you know, we want to do something on behalf of our citizens. So I would support that. I would support an even lower rate. However, I do not think this board would even consider a lower rate. So I'll support the amendment.
Any other comments? Okay, so first we'll vote on the amendment. Commissioner Rettenbach.
Could you clarify the amendment and the amount, please?
Yes, the maximum allow amount is 3.4276. So, and the amendment is 3.4274. So it's 10 thousandths less of a millage.
Thank you.
Commissioner West.
I know we have an amendment on the table. Would you be willing to move this forward to next week so that we could get Lori and the accounting folks to let us know implications of this amendment?
That's what the amendment would do, is move it forward to next week.
But we could accomplish that same thing by taking the motion that I made and moving it forward.
Yes, either one. Any other comments? So first we'll vote on the amendment, and then, and if that passes or fails, then we'll vote on the first motion by Commissioner Wessel. So this will be a vote on the amendment. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that motion failed. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, the motion fails 4-3. All right, so then now we'll just move on the original motion. So, and this is to move it forward, the amount of 3.4276. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. So the motion passes 6-1. Rushton. Voted no. Yes. All right, so then that would, thank you. So then that brings us then to Lori, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I did not, no, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, then we'll bring it to the 2% allocation request. Commissioner Rettenbach.
I would recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to approve the submittal of a 2% allocation request for expansion of the 800 megahertz simulcast system in the amount of $248,920.
Second.
Yeah, it doesn't need all that other language in there.
Okay. Commissioner Rettenbach.
Well, it's a lot of money, but you know, if it's something that is going to benefit the tribe as well, we might as well ask for the moon. And hope we have good luck with this one.
Commissioner Rushton.
This application for the,
Go ahead. We didn't hear the first part of your statement.
in reviewing the application for the simulcast system, the information that was provided to us on the top form was different than the actual application, from what I understood. The request is for 136,840. Is that right, Matt? Because then we have local leveraging of 112 that will come out of the tower fund?
Correct. The total amount is what was in the motion. What the tribal 2% would cover would be the $136,840.
So Carolyn has made the motion for the full amount, 248,920. Are you telling us that that's an incorrect amount that you're requesting?
That's the total amount for the project.
What are you requesting? Which dollar amount are you requesting in this 2% grant?
$136,840.
Okay, so I would amend the motion to reflect the request is 136,840.
I'll second.
Okay.
Wrong
Commissioner, all right. Commissioner Ansel.
Thank you. Now I want to know, where's the rest of the money coming from?
Well, as I did illustrate, we do have money in the tower fund and one that will be transferred from the tower fund into the capital improvement projects. I have talked with the county to assure that the funds are there. That's why I notated it on the EDS.
Any other questions? Commissioner Lautner.
Thank you. Is this for the sole purpose of 911 radio communication?
For radio communications with our first responders in the field. It does cover 800 megahertz spectrum of the radio, and it will benefit Grand Traverse Band in their area. And since we are beefing that up, we are going to tie it in and create redundancy with the other towers that already have this solution in place, making it a more secure form of communication.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I just wondered, will this help with Northport at all, or is that pretty well corrected?
Northport on the fire side is pretty well corrected. We're incorporating a law enforcement aspect of it so that law enforcement will be able to benefit from that same coverage that the fire department is seeing right now.
Okay. Commissioner Ansorgi.
Yes, thank you. The rest of the money that's coming out of the tower fund, have we approved a project for that yet? Because this is just asking for the 2% money. Where's the project to actually do all the work? Well, you know, we're going to take money from the tower fund to do the rest of it. Where's that project?
In the capital improvement plan.
So we have not seen any numbers. You know, as far as, you know, how much it's going to cost. You haven't gone out for bids or anything like that.
I did get a project quote from our tower consultant. He has consistently come under bid specs for all of our equipment so far. Through the 2% grant, we should be able to take advantage of that. If we want to do it as a county, we'd be more than happy to go out for bids.
So we're going to see you come back to us with a request to do this project if and when we get the 2% money. Is that what I'm hearing?
I can do that.
Yes, let me explain. Yes, first of all, you would have to, if we get the 2%, and it's a big if, because you know the tribal casinos are closed. So obviously we're anticipating revenue will be significantly lower. But if the 2% is approved, you would have to approve that. Then any spending, including the tower project, would have to be approved by the board.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so this will be, first we'll vote on the amendment, and then we'd vote on the entire package. Okay, so all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, the motion passes all those opposed, please raise your hand. The motion passes 7-0. So now it's on, this will be for, again, $136,840 as the 2% grant. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, all those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
So then we'll move on to the Planning Commission, Housing Rehabilitation.
Before you is a 2% request for $10,000 for housing rehabilitation funds. This is very similar to a request that I put forward and the board approved in 2018, and we were awarded $10,000 for housing rehab. This would be used to supplement the work that we're already doing in housing rehab. Our grant funds are all allocated for the rest of this year. So what we have left is any funds coming in from repayment of existing housing loans, and then anything that we might get from the tribe to supplement that. It has to be used on primary residences. It's not used on secondary homes or any rentals. And applicants have to be at or below 80% of the area median income. We have a waiting list, and we've been getting more calls in the last few weeks from people for assistance. I think that's probably going to increase given the fact that people are unemployed and they still have work that needs to be completed on their homes. So if the board approves, I'd like to put this request into the tribe for $10,000 to help us with rehab work.
Okay, Commissioner Lautner.
I would recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the submitted % allocation request for housing rehabilitation funds in the amount of $10,000.
Support.
Commissioner Rushton.
Trudy, with so many of our citizens out of work right now, does that automatically expand that pool of eligible citizens? I'm assuming most of them are on unemployment or some other means of income.
Possibly. We have to go through a verification process, which is a setup that is done through the state. So we have documentation that we have to do to prove their income and bank assets and things like that. But yes, it's possible that we would have more individuals who would now qualify for that.
I think the thing that I'm concerned with is they may temporarily qualify under these guidelines and seek assistance where in, maybe 6 months or so, their income would go back to its normal level, whatever it was, and they would then not qualify. So my concern is getting these funds, if we are awarded them, to those that truly have the need.
Okay. Yes, I see what you're saying. And as part of our vetting process that they meet 80% or lower, we have to have copies of the last 3 years of their tax returns.
Okay, that works for me.
Sheet. Okay, that has to be all averaged out.
Okay, that works for me. I just want to make sure that the dollars are going to truly the needy.
Sure.
And not just the temporary needy.
Okay.
Does that,
I follow you, yes.
thank you.
Commissioner Rettenbach. Did you had your hand up? No? Okay, sorry. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
So then that brings us to the Sheriff's Office, the Great Lakes Patrol Boat funding. Commissioner Rushton.
The sheriff's.
Yeah.
Our sheriff has been trying to acquire a boat for many, many years. And I can appreciate that he is looking at outside the county for any means of support for his boat. So I will support, I support the sheriff in his boat. And so I will ask the Board of Commissioners to support the grant, the 2% grant for the, maybe I don't have my language right here. I'm requesting that the Board of Commissioners forward to the Grand Traverse Band for a 2% grant request in the amount of $25,000 to be placed in, to be used for the Great Lakes Patrol Boat for the Sheriff's Department.
Commissioner Sotis Little.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Ansorgi.
I assume that you meant to say that you move to recommend.
Well, of course, that's what I meant to say. I move to recommend. I was excited. I was all excited that the sheriff applied for the 2% grant in this regard.
Commissioner West.
Mr. Chair? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, and I appreciate Commissioner Rushton's acknowledgement that the sheriff's been working on this for a long time, but I did forward on 4 questions to the sheriff on this proposal or this request, and then I answered those questions for myself, which is why I'd like not to support this grant application. My first question was, is it appropriate to approve a grant request for a matching grant without the approval of the sheriff, for the sheriff to apply for the major grant later this summer? It seems like we have the cart before the horse. Does approval of the 2% grant imply future commission approval and county match for the larger grant, the purchase of the boat, the $100,000 match? Considering unknown budget challenges from what we're currently going through, is it prudent to be considering a major boat and accompanying maintenance expenses at this time? And finally, will approval of this grant request jeopardize our other 2 requests that I think have a higher priority for us, for our county right now? So I am not going to support this grant application.
Commissioner Sotis Little.
I know that when the sheriff came before us, Sheriff Borkovich, you indicated that you wanted to raise the match dollars this time around rather than try to utilize county funds. And for that reason, this is why I seconded the motion that Commissioner Rushton made and would support it.
Sheriff Borkovich, did you want to address this at all?
I was recommended to me from the board, this is the 4th year of process on this, that we approach the Grand Traverse Band at some point for 2% match grant funding. So I attempted to do that with this. I do believe there's private sector money available to help out. We're trying to offset the cost of the county. If we get this grant, 3/4 of the grant will be paid for, of course, by the federal grant itself. We will have to pay 1/4, which is approximately $125,000. I thought if we could get 2% from the Grand Traverse Band, I could get another $100,000 private match donation may take the county off the hook altogether and get this most necessary piece of equipment. Actually, our deputies are out as we speak right now in Suttons Bay. We have 4 new Marine deputies. When I leave here, I'll be going out there with them. We're doing extraction techniques, getting people out of the water. So we have 2 of our dive team members out with the 4 people, and our boats really aren't set up with dive platform cutouts. So we have to learn how to pull people up over the side and over the top of a boat sometimes. And of course, when you need your engines running, when you're out in the lake navigating around the lakes on a rescue, we have to shut off, in this essence, our starboard engine. We have to shut it off so a person, if they're thrown around the waves or the boat gets out of control, it doesn't chop them up with the props. So it's a very big thing. It's a very technical thing. And that's why these professional boats, these rescue boats, have dive cutout platforms on the sides. And, you know, I guess what I'm saying is I think this is a very worthy project. I think it's important that we get this. If you look at the pictures of Leelanau County from the air, you know, 3/4 of our shoreline is touching water, and it's Great Lakes issue. So I think it's a safety issue for us long term. I do understand what the county's going into right now with the COVID-19 situations. I feel for all of you, but I'll still pursue this anyway, and thinking that this is very important. Once we get out of this COVID structure we're in right now, people, it's gonna be like a jack in the box. They're gonna want to get out and recreate. We have a lot of canoes and kayaks trying to paddle out to the islands, and a lot of stuff going on in the bays where we could use the rescue capability. So that's really all I have to say about it. I still think we need it. I think it's very, very important, and we go from there.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that I wish we hadn't put Great Lakes patrol boat. If we'd have just put a patrol boat funding, because I realize that we are going to have to replace our boats at some time, one or the other, and it doesn't have to be specifically for the Great Lakes. But if we request it this way, it can only go for that boat. And so I'm not going to support only voting for that boat, because I realize we have to replace our boats at some time, and this could go into, you know, the funding for it if we would remove the Great Lakes idea. So that's it. We're limiting it too much by making it just for the Great Lake Patrol boat.
Well,
Any other comments?
I guess if I may just add to that, sir. The idea here was that 3/4 of the boat was paid for by federal tax money that we've already paid sitting in the federal fund. So I'm not against a Leelanau County Marine Safety Fund where we fund our boats, because we have both inland and Great Lakes. It's just we have this hole in our inventory. So, and I do appreciate you not teasing me about my COVID hair and my injured eye. Kind of wondered what you'd think of me when I showed up here today in uniform looking like that, but figure if nobody else can get a haircut, I'm not getting one either. So thanks for being nice to me on that.
Any other comment? Commissioner Lautner.
Yes, thank you. I feel for your not being able to get a hair. I think that by wording this a Great Lakes capable patrol boat, it may keep those options open for us. So if we are successful getting this boat, we can use it on inland lakes also, Mike?
We could. It would be much the same problem as they're having with the Gun Lake boat, though. They have a tremendous fire rescue boat down in Glen Lake, and it is difficult to launch like at Little Gun Lake at that small public access, and it's not able to get into a lot of the shallower areas of, if you will, Little Gun Lake. So it is a larger boat, a bigger platforms, you know, for the Great Lakes, and it also involves quite a trailering issue. Once we put it in the spring, we want to leave it in Leland or on the Great Lakes somewhere, preferably in Leland, so we don't have the trailering issues.
Okay, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Wessel.
Yes, is that a formal amendment to the recommendation then, so that it is for a boat and not the matching grant for the larger purchase?
Is that a
I
question?
heard the chair suggest that he'd support it if it were for a marine fund. We do need boats. I just not sure this is time to go for a Great Lakes $500,000 boat.
It wasn't a motion. It was just a statement. I believe the sheriff has made his request, and that's what he wants. And he clarified that. So I'm not making that motion. Commissioner Rushton.
Yes, I was going to point that out, that the sheriff has this board has told the sheriff that we would more than likely support a Great Lakes boat. However, we have asked the sheriff year after year to go out and try to fund the 25% match. He has been doing that time and time again. This is another effort on the sheriff's department to try to alleviate the expense from the county for this grant. Granted, the county will be responsible moving forward for maintenance, service, but as he pointed out, 3/4 of our county is covered by the Great Lakes. I understand the difficulty of rescue. I understand that there is increased desire for larger boats on our waters historically, and I support this. I think this is a necessity in my estimation. So I will be supporting this.
Any other questions or statements? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, all those opposed, please raise your hand. The motion passed 5-2. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Sheriff Markovich. All right, then that brings us to administration and the Michigan Indian Defense, the MIDC.
Yeah, thank you. By state mandate to be in compliance with the MIDC directive, each county needs to submit a budget by May of this year. And Michelle Crocker has, as always, done a great job. I think she emailed all of you the budget yesterday, and I think she called almost all of you last night to see if you have any questions. So Michelle, thank you for all your efforts and work. I know this has been a big project for you. And just a side story, poor Michelle, she had this virtually all done over the weekend, did not press the save button, and it got lost at the start all the way from the beginning. So sometimes that happens. So anyway, as I said, this is a mandate from the state. We are in compliance. We have done an excellent job. Actually, I think we have been complimented for our efforts in the way we have it structured. The person we have working part-time for us, Al Crocker, is a retired county official from the courts in Grand Traverse County, has done a great job. Other counties have told me they wish they could find someone like that doing their work for them. And so we've been very fortunate to have him be responsible for it. It is 10 hours a week. I know for a fact he works more than 10 hours a week on this project. But Michelle, thank you for all your efforts with the budget. As you know, with Michelle and budget, every penny has to be accounted for. And I feel very confident that we have met all the state requirements. Michelle's put together a very thorough budget. And I believe all of you were given a call last night from Michelle to see if you have any questions. So I'll just leave it at that. Michelle, do you want to add anything to it?
No, it's just going to be a changing document as the state tweaks it here and there, and we will come back with you later in the next few months.
Commissioner Ansari.
Yes, thank you. I move to recommend to the Board of Commissioners submit the MIDC fiscal year 21 compliance plan and cost analysis renewal.
Commissioner Rettenbach. Support? Yes. Any questions or statements? Commissioner Rushton.
Yes, I'm wondering if we could subcontract out the employee that serves in this department to offset some of our future costs.
Sounded interested.
Yeah, I think we would have to get permission from his spouse first, though.
Yeah.
And that may be the toughest negotiation part of it.
Mm-hmm. I just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, this has really been a struggle for a lot of counties for several reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One is the facilities, because their facilities have to be mandated that they have private access to meeting rooms and so forth. The way our courts are structured upstairs, we do have that available, so that has been extremely helpful. And the fact is, I know at and Michelle can verify that because we've had some joint meetings with other counties. Other counties are struggling, who is responsible for it. So once again, the fact that we were able to find someone that has past experience and is willing to work for 10 hours a week has really been a godsend for us, because this is quite a burden. If you can look just at the budget, how much time it took to put that together. And I know just the invoices that are coming in, the questions from the legal counsels about trying to comprehend what this new mandate says. We have been through this now for several years, and it's gone extremely smooth for us. I want to compliment Al Crocker for all of his work that he has done. It's great to have someone with 30 years experience working on this.
Any other questions or statements? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much.
And once again, I want to thank Michelle for all her efforts and for giving up her weekend to do this on Mother's Day weekend. I'm sure Al got a very nice present for her.
Okay, that brings us to the workers' compensation update.
Yeah, I'm just looking for some input from the commissioners. Our insurance is renewed every year, July 1st. The last 2 years, we went and submitted quotes. We solicited quotes. We had some controversy with one of the internal county companies about that. We have been with Peterson McGregor for probably over 20 years now. The last 2 years, when we received quotes, they were still the one selected by our county board. We received 3 quotes last year. I guess the question is from the commissioners, do you want to go out, receive quotes again this year, or do you want to continue and go with Pearson McGregor? I have not reached out to them until we've had the discussion here, so I don't know what their numbers would be. But I can tell you that our prices since 2015 have been, I'll just round them off, 67,000, 66,000, 63,000, 49,000, and 40,000, and 46,000. And that's because the formula changed every year. So the question is, do you want to go out for quotes? This would be starting July 1st, or do you want to continue and ask me to get a quote from Pearson McGregor? To get a quote, there's quite a bit of work that needs to take place in terms of the background information that we have to provide to the companies. So I guess I'm looking for input now versus next month to have this discussion.
I mean, my only comment is that I do believe we've saved considerable amount of money by getting the quotes. I don't know that if the bonding agency would want to quote on it again, but I mean, I don't know that we need to go out every year, but I do know that just relying on it for 20 years, that there's quite a difference between 62,000 and 5 years later, it's at 46. Is there any other comments or questions? Otherwise, I would look for a motion. Or we're just doing an update and then we've got, yes, Commissioner Lautner.
I guess that's my question. Did you just want a consensus or a motion?
Yeah. Well, if you want to go for bids, I'd like to know that, because we'd like to have this on the June agenda. But if you wish to for us to get quotes, there's quite a bit of work that needs to take place between our office and the clerk's office to get the data to submit them. It's not a simple, you just call them up and get a quote. There's a state formula that they have to meet. And to do that, we have to give them employee information and quite a bit of data on our budgets to get quotes. So if you wish to get quotes, that means we have to start the process now. If you wish to stay with the current company, then we will just work with them to get a quote. I don't have a price with them. I have not talked to them yet. I want to have a discussion with the board. I don't want to have any discussion with them prior to us having this discussion, right, out of fairness to them.
I see. Yeah, I appreciate what Will said. That did do us a lot of good, especially in the education format of moving, going ahead with bids in the past. For this year, I think we could probably move forward with Peterson. Or at least I'd like what number they come. If it's the last years or less, obviously, I would go with them.
Commissioner Rushton.
Not knowing all the idiosyncrasies at the county, if we're looking at workman's comp, what has changed within our organization that may raise this level? Now, I do understand they have a formula that they work with, but is there something that we are doing or that has changed from last year to this year that could impact the workers' compensation?
Well, I think it'd be a number of claims that we've had in that period. What they do is they do an average over a number of years. So I believe it's a 5-year average. Is that correct? I think it's a 5-year average. Yeah, we did have one this year, as you remember, with the incident at the park. So that does have an impact, but I believe they take a 5-year average. We've been fortunate in the last number of years. We've had very few workman's comp issues, which has led to lower rates. Prior to that, we had some significant incidents, though only significant one I can think of in the past year would be the one at the park with Mr. Bradley. But
Right.
like I said, it is a 5-year average.
So what you're saying to us is historically, we have had a lot more claims. Is that?
It varies. It varies. If you go last 20 years, it goes up and down depending on how many
Okay.
claims there are. And a lot of those claims are law enforcement. They get hurt on an incident. A couple years ago, someone fell through a floor, ride board. So it just varies. But the last couple of years, we've been quite fortunate that we have not had many claims.
Well, that was kind of, my question. Is there something that stands out there that's gonna push this workman's comp over the top? And
probably not. One claim, if you average that over 5 years, I don't think it's gonna make a significant difference.
Right.
And I don't think he was off for that long of a time.
Well, and I just wanted to have some, metric that I could process in this regard. Because as you said, over the last couple of years, this has gone up significantly, but it's not necessarily due to the activity.
Oh, no, it's gone down. It's gone down, not up.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah, it went from, let me give you the numbers again. In 2015, I'll just round these off. In 2015, we paid $67,000. 2016, $66,000. 2017, $63,000. 2018, $49,000. 2019, $46,000.
My mistake. I had those numbers inverted.
Yep.
So I would support staying with the same group at this point, and maybe we could look at that again next year.
If you wish, I will get a quote from from Pearson McGregor, and their agent will be here at the June meeting to present it.
Commissioner Rettenbach. I'm sorry, you're muted still. We can't hear you.
I was just wondering if there was a motion on the floor by Commissioner Lautner, and I understand now it is, or Melinda, you're shaking
No,
your
there's
head
no,
Okay.
No, if you just wish me to, I will proceed and contact them and get a quote.
Okay, I would make a recommendation, move to recommend to the Board of Commissioners that we stay with Peterson after receiving their quote. If further consideration is necessary at that time, we can.
Excuse me, could we clarify that, just say to get a quote from Peterson McGregor? I don't want to have in the motion that we're going to stay with them, because that's a decision that will be made next month based on what their quote is.
Okay, I move to recommend to the Board of Commissioners that we get a quote from Peterson.
okay, it was supported by Commissioner Westall and Rushton. Any other questions or statements? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you. So then we'll move on to Polycom quotes.
Yeah, just so, we use the Zoom app, but we use the Polycom system. If you remember from our meetings, it's a large TV that's brought in with the technology. That is actually owned by the courts, not by the county, and therefore, every time we have a meeting, we have to get permission to use it. Our concern is, if this continues, there may be a conflict that if, for example, if there was a court case this morning, we would have challenges because they get priority over it because obviously it's their system. So we went out and got some quotes on what a Polycom system would be. I believe Ron is there. Ron, do you want to talk about that? Ron, I think you're muted yourself, Ron.
Sorry. Okay, we did go out and get some quotes. I think we got probably about 10 quotes. Laurel can confirm that.
Yes.
Range from $6,000 to $8,000. The Polycom equipment can be used on just about any video conferencing platform, whether it be Zoom, Teams from Microsoft or whatever. So it's not specific to Zoom or to YouTube or anything like that. It's the hardware that's used to record the video and display the software. So
yeah. I'm just confirming we did get 10 bids. If the commission would like to go forward, we have not had a chance to review these bids. If you like to just move this forward to next week, if there's interest, then Ron can review all these bids because I don't think they're all the same. I think there may be some different options in there. That's why there's a range in price. But if you'd like to move this forward, we can do the research and come back with a recommendation next week. The governor did extend the Open Meetings Act revision to allow remote meetings until June 30th now. It originally was scheduled to expire May 12th, today, but that's been extended to June 30th. But our concern is, like I said, if the courts have a case on the same time we have a meeting, that would create a significant challenge for us.
Commissioner Wessel.
Yes, I move to recommend that we move this forward to next week's meeting.
We have a support from Commissioner Rettenbach. Okay, any other questions? Commissioner Rushton.
Do we now know what the court schedule is? As far as, it's my understanding that the court has really had limited operations during this time. So do we now have a court schedule?
Well, I'll let Michelle talk about it, but I know the ones they have had, they've been using this same Zoom system in here because either Jennifer or Michelle is part of that process. So Michelle, do you want to talk about that?
We still have our schedule, and as much as possible, it's being done by Zoom. We just have one, we have our motion days when we know when they are. We're limited, obviously, we can't have jury trials, and they're operating under what the Supreme Court says. So anything that we do for court, or if there's arraignments, if someone's picked up and put in jail, we use the system for that. So there is a schedule. Obviously, what can be pushed off is being pushed off, but the stuff, regular motion days, we just had one the other day that was about 3 hours. That's not totally answering your question, but there is a schedule. Plus other things that just pop up.
Well, the courts also use it to have their meetings and dialogues too. So sometimes judges want to have a conference about some issues too. So it's difficult for us to know definitely. We know when the courts are scheduled, but they also use it for other events or meetings.
Ron, did you have a comment about that?
I do. The equipment that we're using is a portable unit. We do have 2 other units that are built in our courtrooms. Our probate courtroom has a built-in piece of equipment that was provided by SCAO, and also district court has the same thing. So this device would be used strictly in circuit court, not anywhere else.
Commissioner Wessel.
Yes, thank you. I like this proposal to move forward and consider it, because I think in addition to our offsite meetings that we're currently going through, there's all sorts of potential in the future to allow participation in our commission meetings from experts from afar, from Lansing, from consultants that might be presenting to us. So I'd like to look at this as more than just getting through the current crisis, but updating our commission chambers so that we can do more distance communications and 21st century technology. Thank you.
Commissioner Rushton.
I understand Ty Wessel, his desires. However, for me, it's about timing and expense to the county. So if we can utilize existing, because I mean, it doesn't forbid anybody to present to the commission. If we can utilize existing until we get to next year's budget, or we have an idea of what our budgets look like, I'd like to hold off as long as we can provide the service to both entities, the courts and the commission. I do not want to go out there and just buy a piece of equipment because, you know, we don't know how to schedule appropriately or some such thing. It's timing for me.
Well, I think all we're asking is just to move forward to provide you more information by next week. In terms of scheduling, the courts have made it very clear we have to ask them for permission every time we use this system. And I understand where they're coming from. You know, obviously our meetings are scheduled. We try to schedule special meetings around them, but you never know when there may be a request from a judge to use the system. So that's our challenge. But all we're asking today is just to move it forward, to give Ron the opportunity to review the bids, give that information to you next week, and then you can make a decision.
Commissioner Sudas-Little.
Do you need a motion to move it forward, or just, I think it makes ultimate sense, we can't make a decision without having the information. So it
Yeah,
seems
we're just asking you to move it forward.
we should do it. You do want a motion,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
I move to recommend that we move this project forward and allow Ron Plamondon the opportunity to gather information so that we can make a decision on Polycom, on purchasing Polycom system.
So Commissioner Rettenbach and Commissioner Wessel, are you seconding that? That's what that is? Yes, okay.
I already seconded.
We already had the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, we already had the motion on the floor.
And back to your comments.
I forgot about that.
If you have the information next week, if you choose to, I mean, you don't have to purchase it next week. You could hold off in response to Commissioner Rushton. Once you have the information and the quotes, you can look at that, make an informed decision, and if you wish to wait till summer or next year's budget, you also have that option, but at least you'll have that data in front of you.
So this is just to move it forward. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, all those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 6-1. All right, thank you. So then we'll look at, we have COVID-19 policies and the building reopening update.
Yeah, let me give you kind of a three-phase update on this. I have been on a conference call with the Michigan Association of Counties and or the county administrators or our insurance providers and legal counsels on average about twice per week in the last 6 weeks or so. And as we're all trying to get through this and we're all trying to work together, and it's very helpful to know what other counties are doing. Sometimes you feel like you're the only ones dealing with this, and it finds out that 83 counties are basically challenged the same issues that no one really was prepared for. So let me just give an overview from the state level. And I received a survey that I just got back yesterday. I looked at it last night. Of the 83 counties in Michigan, only at this point 4 are considering doing layoffs, and only 2 of them are doing major layoffs considering, and that's Genesee County, which is the Flint area. The other one is St. Clair, and they are significantly looking at layoffs. It has hit them hard. They had financial struggles beforehand, and they are concerned about their future. They had issues before this. This has just made it much worse. and so they are considering layoffs. Outside of that, no other county. Emmett County is considering some potential layoffs. One of the things I heard on the radio, and this is only what I heard on the radio, is they have temporarily laid off all their inspectors for a couple of weeks until construction has opened again and permits, but it's open now, so I'm not sure how that's going to impact them. Outside of that, none of the other counties that responded or participate they're all kind of doing the same thing that we're waiting. They're kind of waiting to see what's happening, what happens 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. Everyone's kind of starting the budget process this summer. Some are starting it sooner, some are starting later. Many do the same kind of timeline we do. And so everyone's saying, let's wait till the summer to see what happens in June and July as they go forward. So in that respect, we are pretty much in par with the majority of the counties, like I said, with the exception of Genesee and St. Clair, as they have unique issues. In terms of hazard pay, this was discussed at length for first responders. Same requests have basically went out to every county in the state of Michigan. As of yesterday, only 2 counties are considering it, and that is Wexford County is concerning a stipend, and the other one is Gladwin County. Those are only 2 counties of the ones that participate that are considering hazard pay. So that's an update from that perspective. Everyone's kind of wondering what's going to happen after May 30th in terms of reopening. And so that goes into my second part. We have been planning now for a couple of weeks, if and when we open, will be a partial opening, will be a full opening, and how will we respect that? And as you know, the governor's order is now extended through May 30th. I understand there may be an update this Thursday, and there probably one the following Thursday in terms of there may be zones set up, there may be some other removal of or modification of restrictions at that time. So as of now, the official date is May 30th, but there may be some updates coming up prior to that, as there has been in the past 6 weeks. It seems like on Thursdays or Fridays is when there's updates coming on. So I'm assuming we'll know something before that May 30th date. I'm guessing it'll be in about 2 weeks. There may be an update next week, but a more firm update in 2 weeks. What we're doing here internally is preparing for that opening. And once again, we're basing it on what is in the governor's order at this point and also what is in the health department order at this point, because those two do coincide. So at this point, we will be continuing to recommending that all employees wear masks. Visitors who come in the building will have to wear masks. We are going to limit people use of the restroom to 2 people per time. The plexiglasses in the offices should be here early next week for all the countertops. We will be ordering plexiglasses for the commissioner's room here too, between people. We talk about if and when we open and have meetings here again, if we have to separate. And once again, it's a big if, depending what happens. We actually could add a couple of tables at each corner here. So we physically could have commissioners here and still be 6 feet apart. In terms of the public, we have removed already in this room and also in the hallways those tri-chairs. There's 3 chairs that are linked together that are physically part of one system. Those have been removed. And then we're going to replace them with chairs from this room. In this room, once we allow the public back in, we're going to separate people, reduce the number of people that can come in this room. If there is a great capacity, we're going to broadcast the meeting live downstairs in the common room down there, so people can actually come in and watch it down there. So we are preparing for all options. Once again, this may change depending on what happens the next week, the next month, and the next 3 months. I think broadcasting live on YouTube has been very successful. I will give you an update Friday, but in terms of the number of people that are actually watching it, it's amazing. We have hit now over 1,000 people have watched it on YouTube. So that to me is amazing. I think that's a good service that we provide. We have ordered additional stations for every offices where people can get cream or fluid for their hands. We are looking at making traffic in the building one way, where they come in one way, exit, and do a loop, as most grocery stores and department stores and hardware stores have done now. So we're looking at that. We're looking at maybe only having one entrance for the employees here, and constantly evolving, trying to see what we can do. Many of these ideas other counties are also looking at, so we're preparing for a full and or partial opening, whether it's May 30th or whenever that comes. We're trying to maintain safety for our employees as well as the public, and still be in compliance with any state or local health department guideline. So this will change, I'm sure, week to week, depending on what happens, but we are trying to be prepared at some point to reopen this building back up and provide services. Fortunately, I think people have been very gracious. Almost everyone who has called me or has talked to other department has had their questions answered. We do have some people that do come in the building. I think we may continue what we've done in the lobby with the drop box, because even after we open, some people just may not feel comfortable, but still want to come in the building. We're looking at option of having people, if they wish, schedule an appointment so they know exactly what their time is, so they don't have to come and wait. You know, you could call the clerk's office as an example, schedule appointment at 10:45. So therefore, when you come in, you'll know you'll get service up front. And so we're trying to be as much proactive as possible. I put together an internal task force. We met yesterday. Some good ideas are going to have come forward from that. And we're going to continue to meet until we prepare to serve the public. But I'm very confident that I think as of now, I think we have addressed every question, every situation that's come forward to any of our departments. Once again, one of the best things I think we ever did was the construction codes online application process. That has really been a godsend, and most contractors who haven't been using it now want to use it because it really does save them time. And the comment I got just yesterday from one gentleman says, "Oh, this is much easier than I thought. Why would I want to come in here and see all of you people when I can do it at home at night?" So that has been a real blessing for us to have that. So once again, we're trying to be proactive. We're trying to have everything in place that if it's a partial or full openings, while we still maintain services, but also protect our employees and protect the public. Any questions on that before I get into the policy procedure?
Commissioner Rushton.
Chad, either with a partial opening or a full opening, have you addressed disinfecting throughout the day? What those process?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I just gave you a partial list of things here we talked about. One of the things we talked about is we would have a set schedule where let's say every 2 hours or 3 hours and so forth, we come through and disinfect. We'd have a staff person do that. We are continuing with our extra custodial care. I actually happened to be here on 2 different Saturdays when the crew was coming here. And I kind of have a poor sense of smell, but when you walk in the building, you can definitely smell the cleaners that they're using. All the cleaners they are using, they have confirmed that are in compliance with new guidelines and so forth. We probably will have to continue with the extra cleaning for a foreseeable future. But yes, we talked about that. Also, we talked about our employees every time that there's a encounter that they come and clean after that person if they are putting their hands on the surfaces and so forth. We're looking at cleaning the phones here too. So yes, we are looking at a lot of different options.
Okay,
and
thank you.
Once again, it's very helpful when I talk to my fellow county administrators on what they're doing too, because everyone's trying to kind of do the same. And once again, it's a fine line between having access to the public and keeping our employees safe as well as the public safe.
Right. I guess my comment would be is we need to be, we're emphasizing the employees, keeping them safe, but I also think we need to really emphasize as well keeping the public safe.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It sounds self-serving when we're talking.
Well, it's a joint effort.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And but I do think that if we put plexiglass between the commissioners, it's really going to change the atmosphere here and change the conversation type discussions that we have, and I really don't like that idea, and I guess I would be opposed to it if we were, and I don't know how the other commissioners feel about it, but I just think it would sort of put a damper on how our conversations go.
Well, once again, it'll depend on what happens at the state level and the health department level.
Yeah, but if we're ordering them, we're gonna probably.
Well, we can use them for other places. That's not a problem.
Okay.
And once again, everything we're doing is for the safety of our employees, but also safety for our people coming in. So like the shields, everything else, the cleaning, all that is safety for the
Yeah.
employees. Also potentially having the one-way traffic in the hallways. I know a lot of people like to just come and they see friends and they start socializing and kind of, get used to that. So, but it's a new reality and we have to get used to the new reality.
Well, that's true, but I don't want it to sound like this is sort of a, we're protecting us from the public.
No, just opposite. No,
I
we
mean,
talk with the public as well as employees.
I mean, I guess one thing I've learned from this is that there isn't such a thing as public. There's government. It's a government beach. It's not a public beach because the public can't go to it. So it's the government beach is closed, or it's not a public building. It's a government building because we're closing it off to the public. So I'm seeing, there are differences now that I never really recognized before. The difference between public and government is very distinct now.
All right, yesterday I emailed you a response plan. This was developed by our insurance agent, MMRA. Part of the governor's order mandates that all counties have a plan in place. The plan that you approved on viruses on March 17th actually covered much of it. This is a little more detailed. I think this week and next week, I think every county in the state that has insurance through the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Association will be approving this type of plan. It is recommended highly by legal counsel and by insurance to approve this plan. Failure to have a plan could potentially put us at risk from liability as well as loss of insurance coverage if there is a claim. And I passed it on last night to all of you. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. Much of what's in the plan we have been doing already in terms of employees having to self-test, come in, allowing people to work remotely, social distancing, the 6 feet, cleaning, so forth. So I think we're in good shape in that respect, but it is recommended by legal counsel and by insurance agent that we approve this plan. At this point, I'd just like to have you forward to next week. I know you just got it yesterday. It was revised recently and to coincide with the latest governor's order, and that's why you didn't get it until yesterday afternoon.
Commissioner Wessel.
Yes, I move to recommend that we forward the plan to next week's meeting.
We have a second from Commissioner Rettenbach. Any other comments?
I would like to speak to my motion, but not really. I'll take advantage of being able to speak because I made the motion. I just commend Chet and his whole team for the way that they're handling this crisis and the proactive way that everything's getting done and the positive way that everything's getting done. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a team approach. I just want to make sure everyone knows everyone here in the building is kicking in and having good ideas. And just yesterday when we brainstormed, some great ideas came up that I did not think about. So it's always good to get feedback and dialogue.
Any other comments? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, was there anything else on that or no? All right, so then we'd move to review of financials. Commissioner Lautner.
Yes, thank you. I just have a couple little questions out of claims and accounts. On page 4, I was just curious, as a quick print here, towards the bottom of page 4, quick print, we have some glossy posters. I was just wondering, I was just curious, I guess, what that is. It's not a large amount of money. I just want to be educated.
We can find out and email you that. We'll check into it.
Michelle will check into that. I don't know if you heard her. Laurel,
Okay.
do you know what those quick prints were?
They weren't for Tom, they were for us.
They weren't? Okay, you don't, okay.
Sure.
Okay, I'll look for that.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that.
Okay, on page 5, and Commissioner Rushton maybe answer this. On the bottom of page 5, the vendor is McKesson Medical, and their Benzol packet. Is that you're supposed to be able to help someone who's maybe addicted to alcohol, and it helps them become unaddicted? Is that what that is, or is this something totally different?
Are you asking me or?
I'm asking anybody who. I had.
Those are medical supplies. It looks like benzidine all packet. I can call over and ask Todd specifically what they are, but I've seen those come through before. They're benzidine. I'm pretty sure it's benzidine, but I'll call through and I can email you that response also.
Okay, like I have to, but I guess I've heard that there's this product that helps them become unaddicted.
Correct, but I don't know if that's
that product, I guess. Okay. All right.
Okay.
And then I have a question on the on page 9, and it's the my question was the tower consulting for the Miller Hill, but I think I got my questioned with Matt on that. So I think my only last question would be going through claims and account. I see in claims and accounts we had some COVID assistance for senior services, and in post audit there's a lot of seniors for power repair or electricity or some of those things. So is the difference that in the post audit those were budgeted and the COVID assistance was not budgeted, or using
timing? It's the timing of the request. Plus, there's also been some donations, smaller ones coming in specifically to respond to COVID.
So like
Okay.
Like Hanson's and things like that.
We just pay that monthly.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That explains. So that's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, then we'd move to special reports. Do we have any special reports? No, so then that would bring us to public comment, and the number's 231-256-8103. If you wanted to make public comment, you could call in at this time. It's 231-256-8103.
Hello, please state your name.
Eric Lynn, Sutton Bay Township.
Okay, Eric, go ahead.
I'm concerned under item 4, equalization. Commissioner Wessel's motion included the words not to exceed. And I'm hearing it on TV now. It's rather disconcerting. Just a minute. I muted it. Anyway, I'm concerned that his motion included the words not to exceed, but when it was repeated for the vote, those words were disappeared. So, just wanted to point that out.
All right, thank you, Eric.
Again, if there's any other public comment, it's 231-256-8103. All right, so then we'll move on to commissioner comments. Commissioner Lautner?
Yep. I'll wait.
Okay, Commissioner Ansorgi?
Yes, thank you. In preparation for next Tuesday night's meeting, I would just request a quick update on the potential of getting Wi-Fi out to the parking lots. I know you were looking at that, and if you could just update us, Tuesday night. And then also, it's been 6 months since the referral to the Attorney General for the investigation. If you could check to see if we have any update on that.
All right, I can tell you those quickly here now, if you like to have them updates now.
Well,
Would you like?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's start with the Ironman update. No, there's no updates. I called a couple of months ago. It turned out the gentleman that was head of that department who was going to investigate it had a sudden illness and passed away, actually. And I don't know if it's been reassigned to another individual or not, but I can call and find out and try to give you an update next week. So I've not heard anything from them since I was notified that the gentleman passed away. In terms of Wi-Fi in the parking lot, Ron did look at it. The good news, I guess good news, bad news. The good news is the building is constructed very well and very solid, which means the Wi-Fi system cannot penetrate the cement walls here. So we would have to put a separate external system outside with wiring. I can get Ron to give you more details on that, but I know he did investigate this. We looked at the simple approach of trying to just get a booster outside who can pick up a signal. And the logic was that for people that do not have Wi-Fi could actually come in our parking lot and use our system. It could be students, it could be other people, but unfortunately the simple approach did not work. I don't know if Ron has done any more research, so we'll get back to you on that next week.
Thank you.
I mean, I know they can use Sutton's Bay Libraries. You can sit outside of it and use it there. I know that for sure. And I don't know about, I would think you could do the same at Leland Library. So at least there is at least at Sutton's Bay Library there, that is available there for public. Any other comments, commissioner comments? No, so then we'll move down to approval of financials.
Patricia was trying to get your attention.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Sudis Little. I'm
That's
sorry, I
okay.
missed that. Thanks, Tony.
No, I think it's a good idea to have a special meeting on the internet. And I would just like to, because I realize those of us who've been dealing with this for 2.5 years have had the advantage of getting more familiarity with the issues and technology itself. But I want to be sure we're going to include any ISPs that would include all of the ISPs that have been working with us. We started with, as you all may remember, about 12, and then individually met with 9 of them and reviewed the business plans. And then that ultimately whittled down to about 4 who continued onward. Now that the band is actually becoming an ISP, we would say 5. So if we're going to hear from 1, these are a group of very well-informed individuals. I think it would be very important because they all bring different aspects that we hear from all of them. And also it would be nice to have Tom Stevenson, who is with the Michigan Connect Michigan, which is part of the Public Service Commission. And I'm sure he would make his time available. But that is my comment.
So we'll have to pick a day for that, yes, and set up a time with that. Commissioner Lautner.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Patricia, for reminding me that I did want to make a couple of comments made earlier. My request for tabling was not to cut off discussion, but rather to have even more discussion. And per my point, there has just been a small group that has studied this in depth for a number of years. We've only had access to some, etc. It doesn't include everything, and some reports on and off. So I think that it could be a very good thing for us to look at everything going on in towers. I would suggest even a review of the towers we have, who's on them, what they do for us, what they provide, etc. And have absolutely any provider that wants to come and speak. They can speak to the importance. They can speak to what they hope to have. They can speak to impacts that they feel like they would have, and they can have suggestions. The door is wide open. That's my idea on what we would do with a special meeting. I feel the pain. You know, I know Karen mentioned that she doesn't have natural gas or clear out where she is. I'm only 5 miles west of Traverse City. We don't have cable. We don't have natural gas. We don't have access to all those things either. In fact, even satellite. So I've been very, very grateful for the ability to get Wi-Fi. It did cost me an investment to get it here, but I do have it. It beat the dial-up, and even that wasn't available. AT&T's whatever that is called by dial-up, we couldn't even get that. AT&T doesn't even have that in my area. So I think that this is going to be a good meeting because I think that we can get it all on the table, and I'll have a much better understanding before we move forward. So that it's really important. And that's it. So thank you.
Any other comments? Commissioner Rushton.
Hey, Melinda's comments were well said. And Patricia hit the nail on the head when she said, not all of the commissioners are aware of all of the information that's been shared by a few commissioners, you know, being involved with the broadband and the towers and so on and so forth. So I welcome this special meeting because I need to be on top of this as far as having the right information to make the right decision. So thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, since you're all here, I know it's difficult to find a date. How about, since Tuesday seemed to work, how about Tuesday, May 26th? At
Will
9
not
o'clock?
work.
Not work? Okay.
I have 2 meetings that day in the afternoon. How long do you think that meeting would go?
Well, it's up to the 7 of you how long it'll go.
Right, that's my
hard
only.
to say. Oh, all right, we'll contact you. I thought since you all were here, you know, it's difficult to find a time and date that works for 7 people.
Let's try to maybe do it next Tuesday when we have our meeting. We can talk about that day. And
Yeah, check your calendar. Yeah, that's a good idea. If you could bring your calendars to next Tuesday's meeting, or if you want before then, even just send me a quick note on what days you are available. I think you want to do it in the next several weeks. Would you agree, Mr. Chairman?
I would agree.
So during the month of May, if you could send me some potential meeting dates that you are available, that way we could at least finalize it next Tuesday night and maybe come up with the firm agenda on how we want to proceed.
Commissioner Lautner.
I was feeling like ideally we would be able to meet face to face. I know the government extended the opportunity to meet via video till the end of June, but I don't think it's a rule. So is there an opportunity that, say, by mid meet in person?
I missed the last part of that.
Repeat that about when?
Could we meet in person by like mid-June? Is that enough?
Well, in theory, yeah, the order expires May 30th. So it just depends. It's difficult to tell at this point. And also depends what happens, because you would have to be, at least now, you'd have to be 6 feet apart from each other.
Yes. Yeah, so that was just I just think it would be a much more beneficial meeting if we could meet face to face and with our vet, even if we had to have it in the basement of the in the community meeting room in the basement, if it's bigger. We could do
The problem with that, we have to record it and we have to broadcast it live. We can't do it downstairs, so it has to be in this room because of the technology.
Well,
But we can put this on the agenda for next Tuesday night.
if we're meeting, if we have a public meeting, it could be open. Just
Oh,
spread
no,
out.
we cannot have more than 10 people in a room as of now. 10 people is the maximum.
Hopefully that's going to expire though.
Well, it's May 30th, yeah, so it depends on when you want to have the meeting, and depends what happens after May 30th. As of now, we cannot have more than 10 people total. And we have 7 commissioners, myself, and Michelle, so that's 9 right there.
Right.
And if Laura's controlling the meeting, that's 10 people right there.
Commissioner Sudas.
Yes, I understand your need to enhance synergism by meeting in person. However, I think we're going to be in this phase for quite a while. If you look at the governor's 6 steps for reentering, it's definitely people are trying not to get people together. This will be a very popular topic. Probably more people could see it if broadcast live in this forum. I know it's not as convenient, but I know last night at the Leland Township, they've canceled the 4th of July events. They've canceled the annual meeting in June. Everyone is expecting that, you know, we need to, for the sake of our community and safety and health, to keep distance, social distancing, and maintain a very low number of people who are gathered together in one spot. So while I appreciate what you're saying, Commissioner Lautner, I think it's going to be a good long time before we are able to gather a room full of people, and this particular event would bring out a lot of folks.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Rushton.
I wanted to thank the staff. I'm not sure if it was Michelle or Michelle's office, or if it was Laurel who put the packets together and actually mailed them out to us as commissioners. I found it to be very helpful in participating in the online process, because I mean, I work with 2 different computers just trying to attend the meeting. So having the paper copy is a blessing.
That was Laurel's efforts, and we're going to continue to do that as long as we have remote meetings, because you're right, it's difficult to try to look at 2-3 screens at one time. And then if there's any late additions coming in or that type of stuff, it's difficult. So until we are able to meet in person, we will continue to send out hard copies.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think Commissioner Ansorgi endorses that. Commissioner Rettenbach.
As far as process is concerned, at one point during the meeting, I was referring to the email about the MIDC information that we received yesterday. And so my face disappears from the screen. Is that a problem? I mean, if you're still connected audio, is it necessary to have your picture on the screen at all times?
No, actually, you could call in and participate. It's audio or video with the Zoom meeting.
Okay, because I had a message saying, you know, you've disappeared from the screen. I don't know.
Well, for a while there, you all disappeared from the screen, so it wasn't just you.
This was after that. But,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I mean, because I do have the ability, I've found that you can go back and refer to other documents while you're in the meeting. So okay, I have the permission to do it, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, the other day on a call, I had to call in because my Zoom doesn't work at my house very well at all. It completely breaks up. So then I just call in on the phone. And that works out fine. You could do that. We could participate that way as well.
Okay, I don't need to. I mean, I just want to occasionally.
But we like seeing your picture though, so.
Right, but
For
occasionally
example,
refer to another document saying that.
yeah, for example, 2 weeks ago, we had a substance abuse prevention coalition meeting, and we did it Zoom, but only calling only, because you need to get 25, 30 people on the line. It's a little difficult to see that many faces and so forth. So we just thought with a large group of people like that, we did a Zoom meeting, but it was call in only. And that's just perfectly fine. It does comply with the new Open Meetings Act. It has to be video or audio, or it could be a combination. And some people
Yeah.
may wish to contribute. Yeah, so I mean, I'm just talking about future meetings and events.
Yeah, I understand. That's what I'm saying, and I'll do it right now, is that I'm gonna go refer to email. And apparently, my picture disappears, but I,
Yes.
Yes.
but my audio is still connected, and I'm,
Oh,
I'm
yes, yeah, yes.
So I did get a message saying reconnect your video at one point. And it's just, it's
Yeah.
not necessary.
Yeah, Laurel sent you that message just so she wasn't sure you knew you had disconnected the video.
Okay.
So that's why she sent that to you.
Obviously, we're all learning this new process, a new reality.
Okay.
I did see that a state of Michigan meeting got Zoom bombed yesterday afternoon. So we aren't the only ones. This was a state commission. I forgot what the topic was, but they got Zoom bombed yesterday.
Okay, so then that would bring us now to approval of what? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Lautner?
Does Tony have a question before we go to claims and accounts?
Okay, Tony?
Yes, thank you. I was just gonna make the comment that not only is this remote thing, I feel safer from the COVID exposure, but I'm also safer from Melinda physically assaulting me sometimes. So I don't necessarily disagree with this format. Thank you.
Well, I might add, I miss keeping Tony in line. How about that?
All right, could we move on with business here now? We'll move to approval of financials.
You loved it. I would like to make a motion. I would recommend approval of claims and accounts, $130,001.51.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0.
Who was the seconder?
Tie. Yeah. Well,
I couldn't hear.
Commissioner Lautner.
I would recommend approval of post audit report $1,801,912.91.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, all those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.